Peppa and George are inside the house. Peppa holds a sheet of blue paper. Carefully, she folds the paper into the shape of an airplane. Beep, beep, beep! Peppa makes the sound of a plane taking off. Peppa gives the paper plane to George. George smiles widely. He holds the plane and runs around the room. Whoosh, whoosh! George makes the sound of the plane flying in the air. Peppa claps her hands to cheer on her little brother. George runs near the window. He throws the plane. The plane flies out the window, loops around once, and lands on the green grass in the garden. Peppa and George watch in surprise. Peppa and George run outside into the garden together. They look everywhere for the paper plane. Hooray! Hooray! George shouts when he finds the plane on the lawn. They both pick it up and run back inside the house, laughing happily. It was a bright, breezy morning in Peppa's backyard. As Peppa wandered around, she spotted a colorful umbrella lying forgotten in the corner of the garden. Peppa curiously picked it up, wondering what fun she could have with it. Suddenly, a big gust of wind blew. The umbrella opened wide, lifting Peppa off the ground. She squealed in surprise. Up in the sky, Peppa floated and twirled like a pink bird with a rainbow wing. The wind carried her over the yard, spinning in circles, dipping and soaring. Down below, Mummy Pig, Daddy Pig, and George gasped, then burst into laughter as they watched Peppa's unexpected flight show. The wind slowed down, and Peppa landed gently on the soft grass. Her family rushed over as Peppa waved with a big smile. Peppa Pig and the Shape-Shifting Cloud. Peppa and George sit on the grass in the garden. High above, white clouds drift slowly across the blue sky. George points up at the sky, excited. Peppa squints as she watches a big cloud drifting by. Daddy Pig sits nearby, holding a cup of water, and looks up at the two children. Mummy Pig sits beside them, smiling gently. The cloud slowly turns into the shape of a chubby little pig. Peppa jumps up excitedly and points at the sky. A moment later, the cloud stretches out and turns into the shape of a dinosaur. George's eyes light up, and he jumps up happily. The cloud slowly breaks apart into many small pieces and drifts away. Peppa and George laugh happily. Peppa and the apple on the high table. A red apple sits on a tall table. Ooh! Aha!
2 hours later.
Peppa Pig and the ball rolling in the wind. The ball lies still on the grass. A gentle breeze blows. The ball slowly rolls away, even though no one touches it. Peppa widens her eyes and tilts her head as she watches. Peppa walks after the ball. Without running fast, the ball rolls slowly, changing direction with the wind. George runs over and points at the ball. Just in time, Peppa catches up too. Peppa gently places her foot on the ball. Peppa gently kicks the ball over to George. George gently kicks the ball back to Peppa. Peppa kicks the ball too hard, and it flies up. Peppa and George run after the ball. Peppa hugs the ball in her arms. Peppa turns to George and smiles happily. Peppa and the Little Picnic. Peppa holds a small basket and looks around the grass. Peppa spreads the picnic blanket on the ground. George runs over, carrying a toy food box. Peppa smiles happily. Peppa sits down and puts the food on the blanket. Peppa pretends to eat and nods happily. George copies her and pretends to eat too. They both laugh together. Peppa lies on her back and looks up at the sky. George lies down next to Peppa. They watch the clouds slowly drifting by. Peppa and George smile and relax. Peppa Pig and the Giant Paper Crane. Yahoo! After the rain, a small stream appears in the yard, drawing Peppa and George's curiosity. Wow! A giant glowing paper crane floats toward them like magic. It lifts them gently into a magical journey around the garden. It carries them through a star-filled universe with shimmering planets. At the end, it brings them home and shrinks into Peppa's hand like a mysterious gift. Peppa and George are playing with a balloon in the park. A strong gust of wind blows the balloon up into the sky. Peppa looks up at the balloon, startled. George points at the sky, following the balloon with his eyes. Peppa and Daddy Pig start running after the balloon, trying to keep up as it flies higher. Peppa and Daddy Pig run across the grassy field, their legs moving quickly. George runs behind, watching the balloon and smiling. Peppa and Daddy Pig spot the balloon caught in a tree branch. Peppa points at the tree, excited to see the balloon. Daddy Pig uses a long stick to try and reach the balloon from the tree. Peppa hops around happily. Peppa and Daddy Pig are happy to have rescued the balloon. Peppa holds the balloon in her hands, smiling. George jumps up joyfully. The pig family sits down together and continues to play in the park. Peppa and the colorful balloons. Peppa walks into the garden and sees a bunch of colorful balloons. Peppa opens her eyes wide and runs closer. George runs after her, looking curiously at the balloons. Peppa gently touches the balloons. George points at the blue balloon and smiles. Peppa gives one balloon to George. George hugs the balloon and runs around. Peppa throws a balloon into the air. Peppa and George look up, surprised. Daddy Pig comes out and sees the balloons floating high. Daddy Pig holds the balloon strings tightly. Peppa and George jump up happily. Peppa and George play together with a bunch of colorful balloons. The whole family laughs happily. Teddy Bear Rescue. George tossed Teddy up to play, but oh no, Teddy didn't come back down. Instead, he got stuck high up on a tree branch. Peppa jumped as high as she could. George stretched his arms as far as he could, But Teddy stayed firmly on the branch. Just as the two were about to give up, a sudden gust of wind blew in. Teddy fell from the branch and landed neatly in George's arms. George hugged Teddy as if reuniting with a long-lost friend, while Peppa giggled under the tree. And so, the Teddy rescue mission ended, not thanks to any plan, but thanks to the wind itself.